Captains of Industry, brought to you by Airtel.
Welcome back. You're watching Captains of Industry, and in the hot seat tonight, Chris Newson, the CEO of Stanbic IBTC in Nigeria. In 2008 or thereabouts, the Standard Bank Group decided to partner with a locally renowned investment bank in Nigeria, IBTC Chartered, to come up with what is now known as the best investment bank in West Africa. The idea was to draw on Standard Bank's international footprint and the fact that they had assets at their disposal across the African subcontinent, particularly after a partnership with a lucrative institution in China. For now, it seems to be a marriage that's been made in African heaven, but like all marriages, there are some challenges, not least the fact that Standard Bank, through this partnership with IBTC, finds itself navigating a very complex infrastructure, bureaucracy, and demographic culture in a country like Nigeria. To tell us more about doing business in Nigeria, as I said, our captain of industry tonight, Chris Newson, the CEO of Stanbic IBTC. Thanks so much for being with us. The here and now is the aftermath of the banking reforms. Didn't really affect you, but nonetheless, you must be contemplating what all of this means for how you do business in Nigeria.
I think inevitably it does. I mean, I think we're not an island. You're part of an environment in which you need to operate. So there's undoubtedly that has changed. At the same time, I think for us, it was pretty clear something had to change. If you just have a look what was happening in share prices and the general interbank market, there was a sense of a problem. Not always a sense of what the problem was or the size of the problem necessarily, but certainly there was a problem. So I think for us, the reform process is a positive exercise in the context of we need to be a strong industry. I think it's well-renowned fact that ultimately economic growth is dependent upon having some financial systems, and building trust and building integrity into the banking sector is a very important part of what we do. So we want to be a part of that. I think it's less about necessarily taking advantage of the opportunity that's there. Having said that, clearly we had to do business, so we will certainly and have been trying to grow aggressively at a time when I think others in some instances have been a little more internally focused. And that is an opportunity for us. So.
I think if somebody had to describe Nigeria's financial system at the moment, they could do it in three phrases: reforms, liquidity, risk management. You talk about the importance of introducing best practice and governance, but do you think the industry is going to survive some of these reforms?
I think certainly. I think the industry will survive some of those reforms. I think if you look at what really happened in the industry, if I try and describe it to people, it's really two things: it's risk management and corporate governance. Were the two big issues, and clearly as Stanbic IBTC and particularly as being part of Standard Bank Group, we've been very clear in our minds as to that we wanted to implement best practice into Nigeria and try and ensure that we at least had the right risk management processes, and we're not the only bank in town. I think it's always. So we need to recognise it's not one size fits all here. I think there are a number of banks that have come through this process and in good shape. So yes, I think going forward, hopefully the lessons are learnt. I think worldwide sometimes it's despairing that we don't always learn the lessons, and people forget as time goes on. But certainly I think a number of lessons have been learned. I think certainly at a regulatory level, the reforms that will be implemented as a reaction there will go some way to doing it. So yes, I think Nigeria will come through this, and will come through ultimately in a stronger.
Was it a culture shock coming to Nigeria?
I guess my own experience having been in Africa, South Africa is part of Africa, and we are Africans. My role in terms of the broader continent that I played for a couple of years before coming here, I guess gave me some insight and some experience into how some of the countries work, and Nigeria in particular. It wasn't the first time I've been to Nigeria, but I think it's a bit like it's a bit like visiting a city and living in a city. I think it is different, and having come here, it's been it is I wouldn't say a culture shock, but there is a different culture, and I think learning to navigate that culture, learning to deal with people, understand the ways that they think, has been part of the exciting challenge actually.
The best and the worst, I think, of Nigerians. Come on, they're not going to hurt you. I mean, if I had to describe it, I'm just a visitor, I don't live here. I love how everybody is enterprising and robust and hustling. I love that. I hate how they shout at everybody in conversation, because you never know whether you've just walked into a fight or you haven't walked into a fight.
It's funny, I mean, I've had many conversations which you just know you've been told what they think you want to hear. So, and I think that probably happens in many countries. But at the same time, the same conversation can then turn into a really robust and loud and bright. And you walk into, offices. You can walk into to the airport, and you will hear Nigerians. They are very loud. They're very expressive, and vocal in what they do. And in a sense, you begin to love that, because in essence, you're getting the real answer. So, but the energy and the passion that exists in Nigeria is something very, very unique. And if you talk to anybody in their first time visits and what's their first takeaway, it's that sense of energy, entrepreneurialism, which is incredibly addictive and powerful. And I think if Nigeria, if you talk about where's its potential, if it can only harness that energy and that passion, I think the opportunities are enormous.
I mean, we often have these debates in South Africa as who's the true giant of Africa. Is it South Africa? Is it Nigeria? And people will always give the technical arguments for South Africa. Good legal system, great infrastructure. But then people will say, but South Africa has no soul. If you consider what Nigeria is, with all the potential for oil wealth, with the enterprising entrepreneurship that you're talking about, there's a heartbeat, it's pulsating here.
I believe that comparatives are always onerous. I think each country
at your own peril.
And I'm sounding like a politician, but I think it's true. I think each country has its own uniqueness, and I think what becomes really important is that the countries, the companies, then individuals find what that uniqueness is, understand that strength, and really work to it. So the point you make about Nigeria is, yes, it's got 150 million people, it's got the energy, and as I was saying earlier, for me, it's the frustration is harness that energy, harness that opportunity, and I think things will be enormous. In the South African context, it's at a different stage of development, it's at a different stage in its own evolution, and I think needs to take its own decisions in that regard. I really hasten. I don't think there's a better or a worse or a bigger or a better, or a more important. I think they're all important, and I think they've all got very important roles to play in the development of the continent.
How would you describe your management style? And I'll tell you why I'm saying that. People I've spoken to in general say the level of professionalism at Stanbic IBTC is palpable in comparison to many other financial institutions, that it seems to be the one thing that you've inculcated in there. If you get a phone call, return it. If you receive an email, respond to it. But interact with people and never leave people in the lurch.
I think the philosophy is that it's about people. I mean, as an organization, as trying to do business anywhere in the world, I think it is all about people. So what's the philosophy? If you like, I guess at the heart of it is treat people like you want to be treated yourself. So if you made a phone call and no one returned your call, how do you feel? And you know how you feel. You get back on the phone and you shout and scream. So I think in my general style, hopefully it's an open style. It's one which I think the reality is, and the realism is, that you can learn something from everybody, and it's not about hierarchies, it's not about anything in the like and titles and etc. Hopefully it's just about an opportunity, keeping open-minded, having a sense of self-understanding as to where you are, what your strengths and weaknesses are, and more importantly, you're as good as the people around you, and it's those people that if they're doing well, you do well. That's a simple logic. So I think we just try to make people understand what their accountabilities are, what their responsibilities are, and more importantly, what their potential is, and hopefully give them the environment in which to try and go out and reach some of their potential.
Personally, how do you test yourself? Because I know you're a marathon runner, you're a bit of a fitness addict. Why is that?
I guess I enjoy challenging myself. I think I suppose my philosophy has been a little bit about, get yourself out of your comfort zone, and I suppose some of what I've done as a functional role in a job has been doing just that. Coming to Nigeria was certainly trying to take myself out of a comfort zone, and I guess marathon running is a part of it. I do believe in the healthy body, healthy mind principle, but I also think you're just challenging yourself. You're always putting a goal ahead of you which you haven't achieved before, or you'd like to try and get to. So keep moving forward, and I think it's all about growth. And I think if you go through life just doing what's comfortable, I don't see the sense of fulfillment in that.
By way of your physical endurance tests, what's the next major challenge for you?
Well, it's an interesting one. I haven't really set one as a physical challenge. I have to say I've used running almost as a way to stay fit, but also kind of keep myself moving along, and how much further you want to go. Having run comrades, I'm not sure I'm about to do any 150k runs or anything like that, but I think staying fit is going to be important.
So there's no Kilimanjaro on the horizon?
That's my wife's territory. Yeah. She does that, and that's fantastic. I think those are different sort of physical endurances, and I think it's.
As one woman supporting another, I'm putting this challenge to you. We want to hear you climbing Kili very soon.
Yeah, perfect.
And finally then, post Stanbic IBTC, where do you see yourself? Where is life? Nigeria, South Africa, could be anywhere else?
Well, I think it can be. I think if you think through, what is this all giving, I guess, me and the institution to some extent. It's about an experience in the continent. It's about understanding some of the way that things are done. I guess the unique experience of having been involved in integrating businesses and trying to grow businesses. The reality is the mindsets of growing market share versus maintaining market share, and the sort of people you need and the sort of approach you need to take to do that is different, and hopefully I can use that experience. So where do I see it? I just want to be able to utilize that experience. At the same time, there's lots of the world that I don't know and that I've never experienced, and therefore being able to be involved in other areas that have some similarities but are obviously unique in their own mind. It's the knowledge building, it's trying to get to understand and work with things and people that I enjoy.
Chris Newson, you've been our captain of industry tonight. I thank you so much for your insights and the frank conversation.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks very much, Laura.
And in the words of Chris Newson, harness your potential, be the best that you can be, test yourself, but ultimately run a business dynamically and professionally, because effectively the time for Nigeria has come, the time for Africa has come. A great, robust continent. From the CEO of Stanbic IBTC, formerly the Deputy CEO for Africa at Standard Bank, a man heavily involved with really growing the corporate finance profile for the continent at a time when Africa has come back to life.